Namaste, one and all. Today I will going to present a topic, scientific knowledge. So, what is scientific knowledge? So that's a striking question. How it differs from common knowledge? Is there any difference actually? So, what are the different aspects of scientific knowledge and how we acquire at scientific knowledge? So, these are some basic questions regarding the topic. So, in this presentation, I am trying to answer such questions about scientific knowledge. So, first of all, let us see what is scientific knowledge. So, it's defined as knowledge accumulated by systematic study and organized by general principles. So, that's a definition. Knowledge accumulated through a systematic study and organization. So, it's an organized form of knowledge arrived as a result of certain principles. And this scientific knowledge, whether this scientific knowledge and common knowledge is different in any respect, so that we can examine through the characteristics of scientific knowledge. So it has got some unique features, unique characteristics, such as the scientific knowledge will be objective in nature. It is not subjective, but it is objective. Then verifiable. That's another character of scientific knowledge. We can verify the authenticity. Then it will be systematic. So already we seen the definition that it's generated, acquired through a systematic study. So systematic knowledge, that's another feature of scientific knowledge. It's explorative. So arrived through exploration, intensive study. It shall be reliable, then accurate, predictable, and variable. So these are the characteristics of scientific knowledge, and these characteristics differ scientific knowledge from the common knowledge. So all that knowledge developed in our life may not be scientific knowledge unless it has the following characteristics that we have already seen: the objectivity, verifiability, systematic, explorative, reliable, accurate, predictable, and variable. So that variability is another feature of scientific knowledge as well as science. And according to science, everything changes except change on the basis of evidences. So that's about the characteristics of scientific knowledge. So then what science consists? So when we talk about this knowledge, we generally perceived science as a body of knowledge and processes by which this knowledge is produced or generated. So these are the two major divisions when we talk about what science consists of. So one is a body of knowledge and the other is various processes through which such knowledge is generated or knowledge is constructed, and that processes shall satisfy one condition, that all such processes shall be scientific processes. No any speculation like that. That processes through which knowledge is constructed shall be scientific. So there are various themes, epistemological themes of science according to Sandoval. So he classified 4 categories or 4 assumptions regarding scientific knowledge. The first one is scientific knowledge as constructed. Second is scientific methods are diverse. Then scientific knowledge is in different forms and variable certainty. So these are the 4 themes or 4 assumptions Sandoval proposed regarding scientific knowledge. So it's being constructed. So constructed by the students of science or the persons involved in science or scientific activities. And the second one is scientific method. So the method of science to arrive at scientific knowledge are diverse or different. Means there is not a single method for science or to arrive at scientific knowledge. Then scientific knowledge can be in different forms. And as we already said, in the characteristic of scientific knowledge, variable certainty. So the conclusions may be variable, varied, changed due to the presence of occurrence of new and new evidences. So the 4 themes are this: it is being constructed, the methods of construction may be different, and the constructed knowledge shall be in various forms, and there shall be changes in the knowledge, which is varied, variable. So knowledge is constructed. You are familiar with the process of construction, constructive knowledge, learning, constructivism, constructionism, etc. Students learn by connecting new knowledge with knowledge and concept that they already know. So that's very important. So any knowledge of any form, whether it is scientific or other, which is constructed, that the process of construction is basis for any type of knowledge, whether it is scientific or not. And for that construction, there should be a platform, that is the existing knowledge base of the learner. So what he or she already know about a thing, or whether it is a new one, which is unrelated to the existing experience, existing knowledge of the child or the learner. So that matters the process of construction. So what experience, what previous exposure the learner has, and how they engage in the construction process is significant in science. So in scientific knowledge, it is also significant that how the learner engage in the process of construction. Means whether they are engaging in this constructive process through scientific processes or activities of science. So that's significant about the process of construction of scientific knowledge, the background experience exposure. If something is missing in their background experience or background knowledge, we have to supplement it, and there shall be certain conditions in the form of scientific processes for construction of scientific knowledge. Then regarding scientific method, there is a wrong notion regarding scientific method as it's a single very rigid method. It's not like that. The methods are multiple. There is no single method for science. Generally, we say these and these are the steps of scientific method, and always science does not rely on experimentation or field study onwards, all times. There are varied methods, varied processes, varied activities as methods of science. So it's not a method, but it is methods. So that's important in the case of science. So there are scientific methods, not a single method, and not always experimentation. So there are very many methods for arriving at scientific knowledge, not a single method. The second epistemological theme. Then forms of scientific knowledge. Scientific knowledge can be in different forms, in varied forms. So you are familiar with scientific terms. So what is the peculiarity of scientific terms? Then scientific facts, concepts, hypotheses, theories, laws, etc. All these are different forms of scientific knowledge. So in scientific vocabulary, we are using scientific terms, and thus it forms scientific literature. So when we are writing something, it becomes scientific only when we are using scientific terms, not the terms of literature. That's the peculiarity of scientific writing. And the facts which are relatively stable in science, which are universally accepted. Then concepts, which is cumulative, added up, always, it is refreshing, and there shall be error in conceptualization. There shall be misconceptions, conceptual errors. So the basic, very beginning of the formulation of concept may be a wrong one or a partial one. That will happen, or we have discussed that the process of construction. In the process of construction, when the learner has some gaps in previous experience, or whether they are not following scientific processes for construction. On both these, by both these missing elements, there shall be misconception or conceptual errors. So concept is some of the basic unit of scientific knowledge, formation of scientific concepts scientifically. So the concept shall be formed scientifically also is important, and by which processes they develop that concept. whether all required experiences and exposure are available to them. Then hypothesis, tentative solutions, theories, laws. All these are different forms of scientific knowledge. So scientific knowledge is available or seen or compiled in the form of terms, facts, concepts, hypotheses, theories, laws, principles, etc. Then the fourth theme of scientific knowledge, or fourth epistemological view of scientific knowledge, is its variability, variable certainty. Only certainty is uncertainty. So that's the point of view. Everything changes. Everything can be changed on the basis of evidences. So the evidences create and change things. That's important in the case of science, as we said in the case of law. So when we get a new evidence which is substantiate or which deny something, some proof or disproof, whatever it is that the evidence makes. So the evidences create because of the evidences. So on the basis of the evidences, that we say that this present pandemic is caused by a virus. Where it is originated or not, it is not properly understood even now, without proper evidence. And the treatment of this pandemic, we are now utilizing all our available knowledge to treat it, and we have to use all knowledge, all forms of knowledge. Only restricted to one branch of medicine, that's not scientific. Opposing all others is not scientific. Every branch of knowledge or every branch of medicine has its own significance. So trying out everything, experimenting using every type of materials and medicines, only one condition: it should not harm the health or life of human beings or the patients. So that evidences shall be there. If you want evidences, we have to experiment with, or we have to collect data about it, to whether a vaccine is successful. That can be, say, only after years of clinical trials. So that evidences shall. So, for example, when at the beginning of this pandemic, there will be messages to use sanitizers and all, always. But immediately after some weeks, the health experts warn us regarding the use of sanitizers. You have to cautiously use that, because it has certain harmful effects. So that's very important. So that evidences, for all evidences shall come out. All things should be come out, which is good and which is bad, and what are the effects of ill effects of these things, what are the side effects of these medicine. That all should know, because such knowledge should be available to all. So that should not be restricted, it should not be scientific. So that evidences, and that evidences create and change things. Then absence of evidences prevents verifiability. So these evidences help us to verify whether this evidence is foolproof. We can verify it whether this causes this. So that should be that we there should be provision to substantiate. So that's the power of evidences in scientific knowledge. So on the basis of similar evidences, similarity in evidences help to create a somewhat static knowledge, and occurrence of new evidences changes into a new knowledge. So they change our existing knowledge, change the existing concept, or add something new with our concept. So for summing up regarding this scientific knowledge, a knowledge which arrived through a constructive, cumulative, conclusive, innovative, and evaluative process. So that's scientific knowledge. It's constructive. So the conditions of construction, such as experiences, background experiences, as well as the scientific activities. It's cumulative, adding up, direct us to a certain conclusion. Then it is always innovative, finding evidences, searching for evidences for generating new knowledge, as well as it is evaluative. So that's all about this scientific knowledge. Thanks for watching.